Vocabio. Master English your way.
On the one hand, profits have ceased to be the fuel of the economic system.
Is a really critical moment when the East India Company ceased to be a conventional.
We're looking at these nations effectively ceasing to exist, the people who live in them needing
that space and time as we know them cease to exist. This is because at that point
to make Russia cease its destabilizing actions in Ukraine and to
appropriation are trying to accomplish by using this phrase. And
not just a billionaire and an accomplished woman, but think about the people whom she's trying to.
You tell it the goal you want to accomplish, show it a lot of data, and then it learns from the data.
Everybody looks in a hurry to accomplish their mission. It's loud, it's fast.
Wonderfully spirited and accomplished and dynamically fresh art.
They're constrained that funding's going down, but in fact, it's going
as built. Can't constrain great powers. It can't stop America when it
like to see if you're willing to do. Constrain your imagination and don't put anything in the story.
About writing biographies, you are quite constrained, obviously, to the life that person leads.
See how we react, but how we react may actually constrain, some of his actions or even encourage him.
The States in World War II was racially segregated. So if you can imagine the United States,
in some cases become more gender segregated, become more female in orientation. It's harder to persuade people.
That segregated schools were unconstitutional because
it was racially segregated. He refused to...
And to segregate blacks. And so you can see how racism...
By committing these acts, then perhaps some of them will reconsider when they're asked to do something horrible.
Our planet. And you just might reconsider some travel habits after what you learned today.
They did not reconsider their history, their cultural heritage.
Reason to reconsider the electoral system, the fraudulent first past the post.
But you knew that was the reason they asked you to reconsider. That's why you had the 5-minute recess.
Physicist Sally Ride.
But she shuns the publicity which surrounds the flight. Even the
technology and figure out ways to apply it, because they all feel shunned and they're all looking for ways around the system. Technology and figure out ways to apply it, because they all feel shunned and they're all looking for ways around the system.
Cultural vilification or social shunning, or even kind of things like economic.
We were in a bunker alone, and the more we felt shunned by society, I talk about volunteering at a food bank.
Continue with this misguided policy, but I want to point out two reasons that I think
the threat was an outdated and misguided view of the role of markets relative to society.
Billionaires in politics, and I think it's really wrong or misguided to talk about billionaires as if they
continue with this misguided policy, but I want to point out two reasons that I think
minimize errors and misunderstandings are probably misguided because they can be so general.
I say, just ignore the polls. When they're like this, ignore them. Because
I think we should ignore it, and I learned a lot. Sections of cultural history completely ignored and left out, and really
for your house. Makes you a stupid offer, you ignore it. Makes you a great offer, you can take it.
Forget about and ignore.
And what are they?
Consumption index. That's one of the oldest and most cited sources in the Bitcoin environmental and energy.
In which we understand the global war. And I'd cite books like recent books for an informed general.
Specifically, and I would cite health system as an example, or education. I think it's hard.
Perhaps those are the cases, as Tom cited, where individuals are sanctioned and they cease to. Perhaps those are the cases, as Tom cited, where individuals are sanctioned and they cease to.
And getting tear gassed on the West Bank and being kidnapped and shot at and all the rest of it. And so I wanted to have...
Despite the fact that, we are
we've maybe shot ourselves in the foot in terms of like our global reputation.
It is. And here's the all-important cover shot. That's the book, Living Better, How I Learned.
Tag in that, although it was shot entirely for environmental reasons.
Not a whole one. Line up a shot under the Sydney harbour with a bicycle.
I think in the whole, they could largely dictate what those parties did. Nothing.
Path, not dictate our every step. Evidence-based.
I think about the extent to which algorithms are dictating our views.
Yeah, so, well, I'm open to the idea that...
Like, what rights do you have to sort of dictate how the world is going to go? And he's like, you're very...
History, biology, and physics dictate, and she always bats last, and she always bats 1,000.
The Lorraine Motel balcony where Dr. King was assassinated, that's iconic for me. The
who was assassinated in 44 BC, to the Emperor Domitian, who was assassinated.
Swedish Prime Minister was assassinated. So there was quite a lot of security around Neil.
Who assassinates whom? People are assassinated in the...
Ordinary individual who then was assassinated a few years later. So Pakistan really had a terrible time with...
Melancholic depression is associated with a depressed mood.
On social media. Jevin is an associate professor in the information school at the University.
Squared event with Will McAskill. Will is an associate professor in philosophy.
Also talked a lot about the costs associated with sort of active investing, the unlikeliness.
I would say the meritocratic hubris associated with the idea that the winners deserve their...
I agree with the proposition that we can generalize. We have to be very careful about that, because what we're losing right now...
Impatient sometimes, I don't want to generalize, but people don't necessarily want to relive it through...
Lobbied for or whatever protected. So we can generalize that. But what I want to do is what the EU's...
Psychology, this is... There are generalized problems here that spread into other disciplines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good at one thing generalizes to expertise in a lot of domains. You know, I think
for its engineering chops, including from maligned folks like Robert Moses as well. And in China,
this is Arijit Pasayat, who was later maligned by the Mr. Modi and his
widely misunderstood and maligned. I think colorblindness is often
in the 20th century. Some of it malign. It was also the imagination which led to Marxism, Leninism.
And it's actually a little bit malign. So am I surprised? I'm surprised that Susan...
Cycle, one's a virtuous cycle, and they are actually reshaping everything. And they both go faster and faster.
Islamic exceptionalism, how the struggle over Islam is reshaping the world, and his new book is The Problem...
We sort of fit in. So they reshape jobs. They make jobs different. They'll
change to think through how to reshape a society for the better and away from what was then. And
how the struggle in Ukraine is reshaping world politics. And we're going to encourage you to consider the...
Like on a road or something. And you wanted to execute a U-turn. You want to turn the needle around.
Full bitch who needs to be executed publicly, so we can watch and laugh at her.
There's so many questions as to how they can actually execute on that. That a federal court recently threw out a law.
Whose will we're about to execute by pulling apart in multiple directions.
Global standing by executing a badly executed war, if nothing else, and having no exits.
Neural network, for example, is typically formulated, or not typically, it's always formulated as an optimal.
1920s, quantum theory was formulated by Heisenberg and others. In fact, it was given a kind of
know how to formulate it, how to explain it. Is that
60, and they formulated with us without any
policy is very much formulated and very much decided in their own capitals, and they have.
You're not enjoying sex, you're tolerating it. What if you love to be touched?
One that the United States can tolerate. And I think if you want a point of sort of...
Or tolerate systemic, structural and institutionalized anti-Black...
Not going to tolerate chaos, including military chaos,
he could never tolerate and forgive.
You also bring out the very strong
ethnic cleansing, apartheid, genocidal, rogue state, all of which are unjust.
Survived this, the terrifying ethnic cleansing and the pogrom that ensued.
Imminent threat of ethnic cleansing by Serbia.
Yeah, well, yes, well, exactly. That's
India are almost at the verge of ethnic cleansing. I don't see objectivity as a matter of
serves to buy just enough reputational cleansing for a class that would otherwise be.
Vocabio, available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.